This is one of a series of videos to teach you how to read and write very long numbers. And of course there are two skills there. You've got to be able to work out what the words are, to read the digits in a very long numeral, and you've got to be able to do it the other way round. I've done videos already on how to work out the words from a whole string of numbers, digits. So if you want that, it's one of these. This video is about how to work out the digits, the numbers, when you've got a string of words. Now, we do know, if you've seen the other videos, and if not, I suggest you have a look at them, we do know that you have to group the digits within the long numeral into groups of 3. That is crucial. That separates out the millions, the billions, the thousands, all those separate sections of the number have to be separated out, and that does make it a lot more easy and straightforward to handle. And then when we write it down as digits, as numbers, we've got to be able to separate these groups of 3 so that we can distinguish between the little sets of 3 digits. Now, there are various ways of doing that. Different parts of the world do it in different ways. In the UK, we put a comma between the groups of 3 digits, which I believe is also the case in the United States. I think China also does that. But a lot of continental European countries don't do that. They use the comma for the decimal point, where we use the full stop or the period mark. And the Europeans use a comma for that. And in some cases, they put a full stop between the numbers, which is the complete opposite of what we do. So obviously, there's scope for ambiguity and confusion there. Some countries even use inverted commas, apostrophes, between their groups of 3 digits. So because there can be this confusion, really technically, scientifically, you're not really supposed to put any of those things in between. You're supposed to put a space. And the Conférence Générale des Poids et Mesures, which is French, obviously, is a general conference that they have on weights and measures. They decided at their 9th conference in 1948, Resolution 7 I have here, and also the 22nd conference in 2003, in which case it was Resolution 10, that numbers with many digits, the digits may be divided into groups of 3 by a thin space. In order to facilitate reading, neither dots nor commas are inserted in the spaces between groups of 3. So officially, you're not supposed to put anything between them. And I'm telling you that because you may find, if you go on to further and higher education, particularly studying sort of scientific subjects, that you're told not to put a comma between, that you're told to put a thin space. And there's a special computer character which designates a thin space which doesn't get broken over lines and so forth. Basically, if you're at school and you're just doing this, do whatever you're told. Whatever your teacher tells you to insert it. Okay. So looking through some numbers, I'm going to put some up there, and I've got them here so that I can tell because I'm going to make them magically appear, etc. First one then I want to have a look at is an easy one. It's an easy one because all the digits are filled up, and it's when we have to insert zeros that it becomes difficult. So this one, 8,231,217,956, which is what we've got up there. I'll put it in here and you'll see why this one is actually quite easy. Billion, we've got 3 positions where we can put the billion for 3 digits. We've only got 1 digit. You could put 2 leading zeros in, but we don't use leading zeros in numbers because they don't mean anything. So the convention is, if it's just 8 billion, we just put the 8. We don't put the 008. Anywhere else in the middle of the number, to space it out and fill the gaps, we do put zeros, and at the end, but not at the beginning. Okay, 231,217,956. Okay, so that's that. Now that was easy. And when we write it out as 8, comma, or space, 231, 217, 956. And incidentally, if you are typing them and you are using commas, you just use a comma. You don't use a space as well, okay? Like when you would do if you're writing prose. Okay, so 8,231,217,956. Right, that was an easy one. As we come to more difficult ones, you've got to remember about grouping them into 3s and not allowing any gaps anywhere in the middle. that you haven't filled with zeros. So the next one, we've got, as you can see, 34 billion, 4 million and 29. So my 34 billion I could put in here. I will put it in here just for this one, then I won't, and I'll stop using the table. We've got 34 billion, 4 million. So the 4 million has only got to go right over here in this space at the side. So because it's got to go right over here in the space at the side, I have to fill up the rest of the gaps with zeros. So I put 4 million there, okay. Then we've got 29, so there are no thousands at all. So I have to fill up the thousand space with zeros because there aren't any. And we can't have gaps in the middle of a number. We have to have, all the way through the number, from wherever we start to wherever we finish, we have to have 3 figures, 3 digits in each of those spaces. So we have to have here 29 at the end like that. We have to have those gaps. Okay, so when I write that out, I have 34 billion, 4 million. Thousands aren't mentioned, you'll see up there. And because they're not mentioned, that doesn't mean we can ignore them completely. We have to indicate there aren't any by putting zeros. Then no hundreds, but 29. Now that makes sense, because in order to be 4 million, it has to be in that position. It can't be in that position, that would be 4,000. Hence the block of zeros. Sorry to go on about that, but that is the crucial thing. The zeros. Okay, a couple more. 100 billion, 3,012. Okay, 100 billion, 3,012. Because it's 100 billion, we put it over there. So we'll do it without the table. We've got 100 billion. Right. I mean, look at the number. Okay, after billion comes million. How many million have we got? We haven't. So we have to put our 3 zeros to indicate there are no millions. Then we have 3,000. 3,000. And 12 at the end. Okay. Right. The next one that's appeared. 340 million, 12,004. So this one, there aren't any billions. So we're not starting in the billions column, we're starting in the millions column. 340 million. Okay, so we can put that. We've got our 3 digits there. Then we need 3 digits for the thousands, because thousands must come next. We've got 12,000. So we put a 0 and a 12. Then we must have 3 digits for the hundreds, tens and units. What have we got? 4. So we put 004. Okay. One more. Final one. 4,03,102. Okay. 4,03,102. You've got to think to yourself, billions, millions, thousands, hundreds, tens, units, or trillions, billions, millions, thousands, hundred, tens, units. So we've got 4 billion. So that is 4 billion. We don't put the 2 leading zeros to make it 004. 4 billion. Millions. How many millions? Missing millions. So we have to put 000 to indicate the missing millions. Then we've got 3,000. Then what have we got on the last one? 102. So there we are. That is the crucial thing, the gaps, where you put the gaps. And you've got to make sure that you've filled in your mind all of these spaces in this table, really. And if you find that you can't remember that, or it's all going wrong, then it's quite easy just to jot down a very quick sketchy version of this table, or even just these words, billion, million, thousand, hundreds, tens, units, so that you can remember that you need to have 3 in each of these, which is within the middle of the number. Okay, going to rub all this off here and put some examples up there that you can then have a go at, and then there'll be one more video on this where I go over them. And now for the part that actually makes all the difference. I've cleaned off the table. I've got the computer to put up some examples. What you need to do is read through those, try to write out the numerals with all the digits and the commas or spaces every third digit and all the zeros in the correct places, and then see if you can do that, and then have a look at the next video, which is probably down here somewhere, where I'll go over them and you can check that you've actually got it right. And that is the way that you will actually learn them.